I was in one penitentiary in British Columbia whose nickname was Hastings Behind Bars. Oh, yeah. I actually had to add this into my show that I do at Fringe Festival, this next part, because people kept on going, how do they get drugs in prison? Yeah, they didn't think there was drugs in prison. I know, rookies, right? We forgive them, though. Guards, over the fence, visits, and my favorite, up someone's ass. There you go. There's that a girl. You have not lived until you've done ass heroin. There's something about doing heroin after it's been in someone's ass that makes it that much more delectable because its innocence has been removed. But I started racking up debts inside the penitentiary, and I was owing money to serious men. One guy I owed money to had killed 3 people in his life, 2 of them inside. These guys would kill you for $10 too, because it's on principle, right? And that scared me. And that was the first time I'd ever actually, in an odd kind of a way, one night, alone, I went, maybe I have a drug problem. I'd never actually thought I had a drug problem before. I thought I was just this outlaw. I thought this was just this kind of punk rock lifestyle that just sometimes got carried away, like the ladies with the wine, you know. Sometimes, oopsie, right? Oopsie, ended up in prison for 8 years. No big deal. Hashtag best life. And when I decided at that time I wanted to get clean. That was the first time I ever got clean. Seriously, I'd been to rehabs and stuff, like to get out of jail early, but it was always just bullshit, and as soon as I got money, I left. So I did 5 years on that 8, and I got out, and I was super institutionalized. I didn't realize how institutionalized I was. And within a short amount of time, I felt like I didn't belong in society. So I robbed a bank. I got sent back. The thing was I didn't want to be a criminal again. I just didn't want to be a member of society. And when I got back to prison, I felt like a complete failure because I didn't feel like I really belonged in prison anymore either, because I didn't want to be a convict. I didn't want to be a criminal. But I don't know how to live like you guys either, right? Long story short, I ended up getting a parole hearing. Because in Canada, you get parole hearings. You have a right to a parole hearing every so often unless you waive that right. And I didn't want back out. Like, I didn't want out of prison. But I don't want to look like I don't want out of prison. I got some dignity, you know what I mean? So besides, I robbed a bank. They're not going to let me out. They let me out. Everyone in the system took pity on me because they saw it as a cry for help. The arresting detective, in her police report, because the arresting police officer often has to give comments for sentence. They give it to the Crown, and the Crown says it on their behalf. Said, in over 20 years of police work, I have never been in a position where I had to professionally recommend prison, but personally can't recommend it. Because she didn't know what to do. Like, everyone saw, like, I was trying to get caught. This wasn't like a sophisticated Pink Panther style, you know what I mean? So they gave me parole to a rehab. I went to the rehab, and I met a bunch of people there, 12-step stuff, just like Mark there, and I got clean. I got clean just a little bit before I went to the rehab. And so September 14th, 2006, September 13th, 2006, I took my last dose of methadone. September 14th, 2006, I woke up completely abstinent, and I've been completely abstinent ever since, right? Thank you. The reality is, though, getting out of prison is actually the hardest part about being in prison. And when I did finally get out, I was in for a huge culture shock. It's like being parachuted or kicked out of a country that has a certain culture and rules into another country that has certain culture and rules. But you better figure out what these fucking rules are, right? Or because I don't know the stuff. Most people in here, I don't want to make assumptions, probably learned little social protocols and all these kinds of things as they were going along naturally, organically. I didn't know those. I didn't know you're not supposed to bring up suicide at parties. I didn't know that. Well, how would I know that, right? Where have you been for the last few years? Prison. You graduated from high school? Nerd. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know how to do these things. I'd bring up the wrong topics. Things that shock and offend most people don't shock and offend me. You get conditioned and desensitized to things really fast when you live that life. And it's not that I'm a hero. It's not that I'm a tough guy. That's just the life I led. So, for the sake of brevity, I'll end with this story. I'm in a town in BC called Abbotsford. It's the penitentiary town of British Columbia. It's the Kingston of British Columbia, but it's closer to Vancouver than Kingston is to Toronto. It's the equivalent of Guelph, in fact. There you go. Give it, about that far away. Guelph's much nicer though. And I'm having a hard time. I'm not knowing what I'm doing out here. And I go to one of these 12-step groups, and a guy saw me there. And I was living in a situation the best way I could describe it is a foster convict program. So a family would get paid a stipend to house me, like in the basement kind of thing. And they'd have it was a Christian family, and they would have these weekend get-together dinner things, right? And apparently, I didn't know this, this gentleman who, his name was Bob, saw me at one of these, and he saw that there would be a crowd of people, and you get your food and you go and socialize and all that kind of stuff. I'd go get my food, and I'd go eat it in a corner, away from everyone. I didn't even know I was doing that, right? This is how institutionalized I was. The deficit in social skills was so bad, I wasn't even aware of it, right? So I go to this meeting, so Wednesday morning, and after the meeting, Bob sticks his hands on my shoulders out of nowhere, and he goes, "Do you feel oppressed when I do this?" Okay, just to put it in perspective, this guy was 65 years old and like 6'2". I'm an ex-street kid. Old men putting their hands on me brings back certain memories and stuff like that. But I didn't know, rather than punch him out, I said, "Yeah, I do, I guess, feel oppressed." He goes, "You felt oppressed your whole life, haven't you?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I want to work with you." So we go out for coffee, and we start talking. And he says, we're just talking, and at the end of it, he goes, "Do you have any questions?" I said, "Yeah, man, what do you want?" And he said, "That's a very good question, and I'm glad you asked that." He said, "Because you don't trust me right now. And I don't expect you to trust me because trust is earned." And I'd never really had anyone talk to me like that before, because it's social workers. You can trust me. Lawyers, you can trust me. Cops, you can trust me. Judges, you can trust me. Convicts, you can trust me. Abusers, you can trust me. This guy told me he had to earn my trust, and I trusted him. And we embarked on what Bob called the resocialization program of Mark Hughes. He gave me little tasks to do. Go talk to that person and ask them how their day is. Yeah, what a big deal. Who cares? You guys probably do that. I didn't know how to do that stuff. He'd give me topics to talk about in social gatherings. He taught me how to drive. When I needed a job, I had no references, because remember, I'd never had a job in my entire life. He said, "If you get stuck, give them me as a reference." One time, I went in for a job, and it was a job I really wanted. It was at a music store. And something that I was very afraid of happened. We're at the end of the interview. The guy says he really likes me. Come in tomorrow and fill out the paperwork. And when I went to do the paperwork, you guys have probably gotten, you know where this is going. You go in and you have to give the tax information and your SIN number. And you guys have probably had this one before, but you didn't have to worry about it, the criminal record check. And the guy said, "Okay, I'll just fill out this paperwork. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I just got to do something." So I call Bob. Thank God for cell phones. I said, "There's a criminal record check. What do I do? What do I do?" He goes, "Tell the truth, because then you can leave with your head held up high." I said, "Okay." Now, you guys probably don't know this one either, because you got to say no on your criminal record check. But when you say yes on the criminal record check, they want to know what you were convicted of. Got an extra piece of paper? Forcible confinement using a disguise during the commission of an indictable offense, assault, break and enter, robbery, all this kind of stuff. The guy comes back, he's all jovial, then he sees it and he goes, "No one's ever answered that before." I go, "First time for everything, right? Yeah, here you go. I got to break your cherry for you." "Me too." He said, "I can't hire you." I said, "We have a corporate policy, we can't hire people." And I was having a hard time getting employment at this time too, because I have no skills, nothing. I'm not educated, never even graduated high school. I have no skills. This was just a service. This is nothing. This is an entry-level thing that a 16-year-old kid can do, and I couldn't get this job. And I left devastated. First time I'd ever cried in public for years. I'm a grown man bawling I'm humiliated. I'm dispirited. I'm hopeless because I'm thinking, is this my fate? Even when I'm trying to do the best, even when I'm trying to be a law-abiding citizen, is this what's always going to happen? Do I even belong out here? Should I just do everyone a favor, including myself, and go back to prison? And I call Bob. Here, I can't even get the words out. Blah, 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 it's blubbering, right? He comes and gets me, he picks me up, and he takes me out for ice cream. And he says, I'm not going to lie, I don't know how we're going to get through this, but we're going to get through this, you and me together. And I don't know, there's a lot more to my story, and I don't normally stop it there, but for this, you guys have been very patient and lovely audience today. All I want to say is, like I said earlier, I'm not a victim, but I still need help. And it's the kindness of people like that intervening in my life that I owe my life to. So thank you very much.